German language is getting popular in Indonesia, considering many contents in YouTube we could find nowadays. If we search Indonesians in Germany or something like that, we will get not one or two, but several of contents. Those Indonesians who live in Germany for work or study experience a phenomenon called language contact. According to Krida Laksana, language contact is mutual influence between the various languages they speak because they often meet with each other. In this context, the Indonesians have contacts with the Germans, therefore the Indonesians will get language contact and it can influence their German and or Indonesian. However, if we hear the Indonesians say something in German, we can hear Indonesian language aspects in their German. This problem is called interference, and it is normal for people to have them. Interference is a deviance of language rules due to the influence of a bilingual's mastery of another language. For example, there are Indonesians who has grammatically correct German, but the interference might happen in their suprasegmental aspect, could be word stress or long and short pronunciation or even intonation. We will be focusing more about the interference of the German utterance intonation. Intonation is the changes of tone pattern that is produced by the speaker when they utter an utterance or its parts. Another definition states that intonation is a sequence of changing the tone and the speech trends in a language. Interference happens when a bilingual identify language sound or phone from the second language with the phone from the first language, and when the bilingual utters the phone, he will use the sound from the first language. But the interference will lessen when the ability of the second language increase too. The background of the study helps to make the problem statement, which is how does the Indonesian intonation interfere with German utterance intonation? The aim of the paper is to describe the influence of Indonesian intonation on German utterances so that it can be known and avoid misunderstandings. The first theory is language contact. Interference could happen because of the situations that the bilinguals were facing. The first one is bilinguality of interlocutors, the second one is departure from specialized uses of a language, and the third one is emotional stress. And then German intonation, it mentions about cadence. Cadence means the rising or falling pitch, loudness, or stress at the end of the sentence or before a pause in intonation pattern. There are three types of cadence. The first one is terminal. It uses for statement and then interrogative clause with question word, and it ends with falling intonation. The second one is interrogative cadence. It is used for yes or no question, and then the second one uses for interrogative clause with question word. It used for further inquiry, and then it ends with rising intonation. And the third one is progressive cadence. It is used for compound sentence. Another theory for German intonation is divided into three parts. The first one is intonation phrases. The rule of intonation phrases is the final syllable is lengthened and it is followed by a pause and or changing the pitch contour. After the intonation phrases comes multiple intonation phrases. Multiple intonation phrases, it is used for complex sentence, so it is more than one intonation phrase, and speakers rely on prosodic cues. And the third one is intonation contours. It is used to describe if the final intonation rising or falling. Other than German intonation theory comes Indonesian intonation theory. The first one is from Lapoliwa. Pitch is linguistic. It can be used to mark each unit of syntax. If the melody is falling, then it is to show that the sentence is finished. If the melody is rising, then it is to show that the sentence is not finished. Other than Lapoliwa, Halim in Irawan and Dinaka Marani explained about four distinctive components in the hierarchical structure of Indonesian intonation, namely intonation patterns, pause groups, contours, and intonation phonemes. He then divided pitch with several pitch levels to 1, 2, and 3. And the last one is from Tata Bahasa Baku Bahasa Indonesia. In one sentence, there is a change in intonation called a tone group. There are syllables that are stressed so that there is a change in the tone, and stress is given to the topic or nucleus of the conversation. This study uses a descriptive qualitative method to describe the results of experimental research using the Praat program. This study uses constructive analysis, which is a synchronic method in language analysis to show similarities and differences between languages or dialects to find principles that can be applied in practical problems such as language teaching and translation. Through this contrastive analysis, it can be seen that the first language has an influence on the process of mastering the second language. As the part of this research, the data were obtained from Herr Toni's YouTube channel. Herr Toni is an Indonesian YouTuber who is now living in Germany for study. There are three videos. The first one is when he was still new in Germany, the second one when he was almost a year, and to compare the intonation, the third video was when he was speaking in Indonesian. The first part is interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentence is a sentence that expresses a question. Another definition said that a sentence that contains an interrogative tone and generally contains the meaning of a question, and various writings are usually marked by question mark. This is the first intonation contours of interrogative sentence in German. The sentence "Aber wie ist der erste Tag gelaufen?" As we can see, there are two intonation phrases. The first one is "Aber wie" and the second one is der erste Tag gelaufen?" The intonation phrase is divided by the lengthening of the final syllable, which is from the word wie, and then it is followed by a pause. This interrogative sentence uses perfect tense. German language, the participle has to be stressed while the auxiliary verb is not. As we can see, the respondent stressed the auxiliary verb, which is ist. The next one, the respondent uses conjunction of aber. When we use conjunction, we have to pause before we actually say the conjunction. The last one is the final intonation. The respondent uses rising intonation or interrogative cadence. But actually, in this case, we have to use falling intonation or terminal cadence. To compare, let's see the second interrogative sentence. Second sentence is "Also was sollen wir heute besprechen?" It also has two intonation phrases. The first one is "also" and the second one is "Was sollen wir heute besprechen?" In this sentence, the respondent uses modal auxiliary verb. The final intonation that the respondent uses is falling or terminal cadence. After that, let's compare with Indonesian intonation. If we see it clearly, the final intonation of Indonesian interrogative cadence is rising intonation or interrogative cadence. It can be said that German and Indonesian have different final intonation in interrogative sentence. Of course, there are different words that has to be stressed. The second part is declarative sentence. Declarative sentence is sentences that used by someone to make a statement. It can be in passive or active sentence. And another definition is sentences that report facts and not in the form of questions or orders. This is the first declarative sentence intonation contours. The sentence is "Die Ausnahme ist jedoch ab der B2-Niveau." In this sentence, there are three intonation phrases. The three of them have their final syllable lengthened, and they are followed by a pause and a changing pitch contour. This sentence uses present tense and the verb sein. It is said that this verb should not be stressed, and the respondent did not. Lastly, the final intonation uses terminal cadence. For comparison, let's see the second one. The sentence is "Man fürchtet sich von dieser sogenannten zweiten Welle." This sentence has only one intonation phrases and the stressed word is man, which should not be stressed. The final intonation is terminal cadence. Lastly, the Indonesian one. We can see that the Indonesian uses terminal cadence for declarative sentence, but in the German language, the verb has to be stressed and uses terminal cadence too. Part 3 is the comparison. Let us list the inferences that are found. There are word stress, intonation in interrogative sentence, and the intonation contour stability. These happen because there are different systems of intonation phrase classification. In Indonesian, we need to use pause, but it can be substituted with lengthening the final syllable at the same time, weakening the volume. It is different than the German intonation phrase rule. The next one is related to the one mentioned before, is different accent. German intonation contour is more stabilized than Indonesian. The last one, it happened because differences. Indonesian uses intonation more than word stress. Intonation is used as a divider for subject and predicate. Different than Indonesian, German uses word stress to determine it. The stress is uncertain but mostly determined, mainly because of morphological factors. From those, we can say that the differences cause interferences. There are certain German language aspects that don't exist in Indonesian language, but this can be reduced with some factors, environment and motivation. By exposing someone to the second language environment can improve the language skill, either in formal or informal environment. And motivation from within is good because it encourages the learner to learn the language. So the conclusion, with the respondent living in Germany, he experienced direct language contact, both in formal and informal environments. In addition, the respondent is also encouraged to improve his language skill, both segmental and suprasegmental, in the hope of being able to communicate with people. These two factors are proof of several theories in reducing German intonation interferences. Therefore, the German intonation interference that was initially present will decrease over time. The analysis that has been done can be benchmarks for Indonesians who wanted to study the German language. The results can help the Indonesians to pay attention more to their German intonation. It is due so that there won't be a misunderstanding when they are uttering something in German. Other than that, they will sound like they are more knowledgeable.